One of your co-hosts, and I have a special guest with me today, Jack Gibson of Indestructible Wealth. Jack, thank you so much for joining me again on the show. I think you've been on twice before, and thank you so much for coming back today.
I know of one time, but maybe I'm getting north of 40 and I'm forgetting the other one. But yeah, it's great to be back either way. Thanks for having me.
That is awesome. I will have to double check, but I know last time we talked a lot about kind of the backstory of what you did with turnkey real estate. And
Mhm.
today you're really launching a new brand, and we want to dig into that. So let me just share at the beginning of this episode, if you are listening today and you have this question in your mind that I want to build wealth that lasts, which is something super near and dear to our hearts, as we're looking to not only build cash flow, but be in a position of passing on generational wealth. If you want to do that, this is a conversation that's going to help supplement and solidify and gel some of those ideas for you, because Jack is on the same path. He has the same ambitions and journey, and he's on this path to do it right now. So if you are really asking the question of what is wealth that lasts? How do I make sure that it's going to last? Tune in today. So Jack is an international and serial entrepreneur. He is a financial thought leader as well. He really started his journey back at 19 in direct sales. And I'm going to ask you a little bit about that as well. So direct sales that led into real estate, building another multi-million-dollar portfolio, generating passive income there. And so Jack, building wealth is important to you, but let's take it back to the beginning for somebody who has not met you before. How did you get to this point in deciding to help others build indestructible wealth?
Oh, that's a very in-depth question that I'll try to be brief. you know, there's two parts to life and being happy and joyful. The first part is success, which is where most people are climbing that mountain, in their 20s and their 30s, and they're trying to achieve, they're trying to hit goals, and they're trying to create, large incomes or great businesses, or achievers anyways, right? Those are
Mm-hmm.
the things that they're going for. So then, success comes from what you get. So fulfillment, on the other hand, comes from what you give. So what I realized is that I could create all the success, more success on top of what I've done. And I've had my ups and my downs and successes and failures, plenty. But what I realized is that, and I look back like over like the last 20 years of really since I started business, what gave me the most fulfillment, joy, it was pouring into the younger generation and pouring in and mentoring those that are really hungry for success, but also they are teachable and they are hungry to do something more with their life than just create success. So I realized that when I looked to start the brand, I could teach business, I could teach entrepreneurialism. I could teach life skills. I could teach, probably could go into how to teach a successful marriage. I mean, we've been married almost 20 years,
Mm.
but you can't be all things to all people. You really have to pick a niche, a focus, and a specific market if you're going to have any success, launching a brand. So I would look back and said, well, what's the number one thing that, kind of like permeates everything over the last 2 decades, and even going back to childhood, it was always centered around money. I love it. So it made sense for me to create a brand around money and successful money, not only management, but how to make more of it, how to keep more, and then how to grow it and multiply it.
Jack, it's interesting that you brought in this success and fulfillment. And I've heard multiple people talk about those two parts of life before. And there's a science of success, there's an art of fulfillment. I think Russell
Hmm.
Brunson said that. And it's interesting that we all kind of realize that as we're continuing on this path, it's not necessarily making more money. It's not necessarily even reaching a financial target, or many people say it's retirement, which I don't believe in retirement. I believe that you can create time and money freedom so you can then choose what you want to do with your time. but why would I want to stop creating that contribution if that's truly making me come alive and also providing value to the world? So all of these things, if I reach this end goal, we realize that that end goal didn't provide the fulfillment in itself. It really is this contribution that you're talking about. So
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I have on the front page of my website, I think the first thing it says, forget retirement. Like, no, it was supposed to be something a little bit more, an adjective that would be a little stronger. That's what my coach told me to use. I'm like, man, what if my mom goes to the site? I can't say that. So, yeah, but I'm aligned in terms of, I don't believe that retirement is an age or really a destination. My goal through the indestructible wealth, yes, is to help people create something that, you know, can last for a long time, for decades, and even multi-generationally. But really, it's to help people to retire financially early so they can do what they want to do, when they want to do it, with who they want to do it with.
Well, I was just going to ask you to define indestructible wealth, and maybe you just have.
It's
Is there
about as
anything
close
else
as
that
I
you
can
would?
probably.
Yeah.
That's about as close as I can get. I think another way to define it is thinking in terms of, we have to be totally present to the fact that our money, our wealth could be taken from us, or it could be lost, or it could be stolen, or it could get eroded. All of those things are entirely possible. So to say that I truly have this number in my bank account and it is indestructible, I think that's really not being present to the realities of life. However, what is indestructible are your ideas. What's indestructible is your mindset, because that can never be taken away, can never be lost. You can certainly lose your way in terms of your mindset, but you did that of your own willingness or your own habits of thought. So money being nothing more than really truly an idea. And by an idea, I mean, somebody thought up Bitcoin. That was an idea first. Now it's a currency, but it was an idea, and it still is. It's still an idea as well. So as long as I have the mindset of resourcefulness, then all my, possessions and money can be taken away, but I can still have wealth because I can replenish and I can do it all over again. So to me, that's more so of what indestructible wealth really is. It's a mindset that you could take everything away from Jack Gibson right now. And although I would really hope that doesn't happen, I'm trying to put all the parameters in place because I don't want to start over. But if it did, I mean, you could literally, I feel you could drop me off in any town with $100 in America, and eventually a decade later, I'll be coming back out a multimillionaire again. So that's what I want to help teach, my audience, that the few that are following right now, it seems so small. Yet it's good, right? But it's never big enough.
So Jack, you're really hitting on something really key, because what you're saying is not something that is brand new. I've heard this same idea before, that once you achieve something, your learning is never taken away from you. And that learning, the internal stuff, is what truly makes you the person who can create that external money. So money is outside of us, but how did we create it in the first place? It's what was inside of us. And so, I mean, if you read Complete Family Wealth, there's a whole series of books. We just interviewed Keith Whitaker. He writes with Susan Massenzio and James E. Hughes Jr. They talk about this idea of wealth being human flourishing, and that real wealth is not just the money outside of us. It's really what is the degree to which we're maximizing our skills and abilities and truly flourishing in life. And so if we recognize that, Jack, what got you to where you were multiple times as a multimillionaire in multiple different businesses was not the money. It was the part of you inside that knew how to accomplish that. if you're teaching that to other people, then let's go ahead and unpack that a little bit. What is the skill set, the set of mindsets, the I believe it's far deeper than the strategies, but what is required internally to be that person who creates indestructible wealth?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, but I think if you really boil it all down, this is nothing new as well. It's a simple belief that you're going to do it. Whatever you believe that you can or you can't do, you're right. So, I think where people really have to look at is, what are some of the beliefs that you've been given that maybe you're not even aware of, that could be preventing you from creating wealth, for example. Look at all the top 10 movies, or even now it's maybe the top 20 movies historically at the box office. I think almost all of them have an evil rich villain. And so if you look at probably the most evil movie of all time, the Titanic, great movie, but still the evilness that it plants into our subconscious is pretty awful, because you don't
Oh
even
yeah.
realize what's happening. But it was all about, class discrepancies, and their evil rich guy was, he was quite the villain, right? So we automatically then think, wow, man, having money is bad. Well, that's your perception, but that's, in all reality, that's not even close to the truth, because all the wealthy people that I'm around, they got there because they're great humans. They were givers first.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly there's going to be a small percentage that are going to get there in other nefarious ways, but they don't have indestructible wealth either. I mean, that will always go away. That will always be lost, taken away, or whatever the case. So
Mm-hmm.
the real kind of the sum it all up, you got to believe that having money and lots of it is great. I think that for my platform, the more good people that I can teach how to make great money, then I know that they're going to do really great things for other humans with that.
Mm-hmm. I think that belief that money corrupts is so entrenched in our society and in our way of thinking. I see it come up in successful people who feel guilty for the money that they've created, who feel afraid of letting people know what they have been able to create, who feel
Mm-hmm.
afraid of what it's going to do to their children and their grandchildren. It comes from unsuccessful people who are living at the poverty line as well, who are thinking that the cause of them not being able to rise is other wealthy people that are somehow suppressing them, or taking the knowledge and information and preventing other people from being able to rise. And it's a power struggle or power play. What is really interesting, though, is that money is not evil. And when we truly recognize that money allows people, I think it's more like a supercharge, or it's a booster, or it's something that creates whatever character, whatever value system, whatever knowledge and wisdom you have, whatever your ability to connect with others, and whatever your skill set is. More money amplifies your ability to do that same thing to a higher level. And so the true focus is not on how much money, but how great of a character and how great of a value system I can carry myself and have inside of me, so that is directing my actions, but how much I can impart that to others, because then the money just helps them do more good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really strong with my platform on teaching people how to give and do it early, and not wait till you've arrived at this certain level of income or certain number on your net worth statement, that then I'll be a philanthropist and then I'll be a giver. Because it's really pretty tough to give. If you make $1 million, it's tough to give 100 grand out of that. When you make 100,000, giving 10,000 away is, that's pretty tough too. I'm not diminishing any level, but it's not like it gets any easier the more that you make, because then the check that you're writing or wiring, right? Checks kind of getting
Mm-hmm.
outdated now. You're not any easier. It's not any easier to do that. So I think that what I teach is just start exercising that muscle, because as you continue to grow and flourish in your businesses and in your investments, and you're growing your money, then that's just going to amplify who you already are and the way that you're being. So we're able to, for example, I think this past year we gave away 40,000 just to our church alone. And then there were other causes that we support as well. We're able to do that, which is amazing. But we're able to do that because I started giving 10 years ago when I was not making the money that I am today and didn't have successful investments, flowing extra sources of income in. We did that then. So then now that's easy. It's not, the muscles already worked. The muscles already developed. It's not like I'm going to the gym for the first time after 90 days or a year off.
That's really a powerful thought exercise, because if we say, well, I'm going to wait until I'm healthy to go to the gym, that would never work, right? I'm going to wait until I lose 100 pounds to start eating healthy. That just is an incongruency. And so why do we think I'm going to wait to have good money habits until I have a lot of money? You're not going to get there with poor money habits in the first place.
Yeah. When I was in 7th grade, I remember in science, this is like the only thing I took away, the law of inertia. And it sticks with me to this day because it makes it applies to every single thing in our lives. A body in motion tends to want to stay in motion, and a body at rest will tend to stay at rest. So once you're in, getting the motion started is the hard part. That's why going to the gym after several months off is difficult. It's why giving, if you haven't been giving, to start it is very, very difficult. To start anything, to start a new business after having worked a job where you work a set schedule is very difficult, because again, you're fighting the law of inertia. Once you get that moving, it does become easier and easier as you go, because the muscle's getting strengthened, whatever muscle that is in that area. So I think it's huge to start even small. Like, for example, I tell people, look, like, give 1% of your income. You will not miss it. A penny out of a dollar out of, 10, I'm sorry, dollar out of 100, that'd be 1%, right? It won't affect you, and you'll live much better. You'll be more blessed on the 99%. Mm-hmm. And then as you do that, then you can go up to 2% easily, and then 5%. And then you'll start to see crazy things happening in your life that you can't even explain, that if you tried to explain it to somebody else, they'll think it's like random, but the truth that it's a direct cause of you being blessed, for you making the upfront sacrifice of being a giver. So I think, you can work your way up through that. Just like I was off the entire summer from the gym because I really wanted to work on my golf game. So it just didn't work to have time to do both. No, that's the excuse I made. So when I started back up this fall, I'm like, okay, just go for 30 minutes. Like, you don't have to go back to your hour or whatever routine. Mm-hmm. Just go for even 20 minutes. Just start getting, that reacclimation into it, so that you don't burn yourself out and try to do too much. So I think too, is just starting off and biting off chunks that you can sustain is very important.
Jack, I love that you're sharing starting where you are and then moving to where you want to go. I think that I'm probably not alone in this, but I can tend to think in terms of black and white, or all or nothing. And I'm either 100% in or I'm not at all. And if I haven't gone 100% in, then it feels like my efforts are fruitless or ineffective, and I may as well not even start. And that sounds so weird to admit, but I think that many of us can have that feeling. Well, if I'm not saving 30% of my income right now, I need to wait until I can be able to do that, rather than starting with 1, 2, 5, 10, 20%. Same with giving. And what's interesting is if you look back at some of the fundamental principles of building wealth, even if you go back to The Richest Man in Babylon, George, I think S is his middle initial.
George Clayson. George S. Clayson.
Yes. And he talks about set thy purse to fattening. put
Yeah.
that 1% or 10% away in savings from wherever you start from, wherever your income is today. Start that discipline, start that habit. And it's interesting that if we overlay that back over onto giving, Rabbi Daniel Lapin will talk about this idea of giving and charity and giving to something that has the ability then to expand your efforts for good, where maybe you could try to do your own charitable work as well. You could go try to organize your own foundation and do all the individual work in the community. But if you can find somebody who is already doing that and you are contributing to that, you're multiplying, you're leveraging your efforts to expand the influence with your giving. And he talks about that almost like greasing this ability for money to flow in and out of your life. And as you release that money with giving, it allows money to come back into your life as well, which is something that we can feel that I need to hang on to all of it and put all of it to work and skip the savings and skip the giving and go straight to the investing. But instead, if we build the right systems and the infrastructure of giving and saving, we're in a position to truly create the opportunity for more wealth to flow into our life.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I definitely think that whatever that your strength is, for example, like I'm pretty good at business and making money. I don't have a large audience on social. So that effort to build that, I'm just starting to kind of exercise that muscle. So it's very, very difficult. I have to learn all kind of new skills and take courses and hire coaches. And it's just not something that comes naturally. So I've got a lot of other things that I've got going. So it's a distraction as well. Those things distract me from building a social media presence. So I look at it and say, okay, what is my ultimate like strength, right? So if I can just stay within my strength zone, for example, in the giving department, I don't volunteer much time because I feel like my strength is making money, so I can do better putting my time into that, and then just donating money to people and multiplying somebody else's infrastructure that they already have set up. So what's your strength? If it's maybe if it's not quite, haven't developed the money making, muscle, and your strength is hands-on time, then do that. And there's multiple ways to give besides just giving money. But that's that's stage 5, right? Is the giving part. Although, like, I have 5 stages of what I consider building
Go ahead and
wealth.
walk us through what that is.
Yeah.
Your 5
So,
stages.
and I always say too, stage 5, it doesn't mean like just because it's on stage 5 that you don't start it in stage 1. It's just when you're in stage 5, you're able to do it at a level to where you're able to build churches, you're able to make some incredible donations that can really move the needle in a big way for other people. So stage 1 of the 5 stages of building indestructible wealth is to really focus on having a effort in putting into yourself. Like you're increasing your own knowledge and your own skills. So your primary objective is to pour money back into investing into yourself. So the more that you're able to, be skillful in something, the more the knowledge that you have, the more expertise, then you're going to be able to be that much more effective, and you're going to be able to be compound your time that you're putting in and increase your earning power. In starting off and creating my Indestructible Wealth brand, I not knowing really what I was doing. I mean, I had a general idea, but I've hired lots of different coaches. I've hired an Instagram coach, a LinkedIn coach, a TikTok coach. I've hired a brand coaching group to help me put the whole thing together. I have business coaches as well that are just overall whole life, whole business strategy. So, I mean, there's 5 coaches right there that when I started this brand, that was the number one thing that I put money into. Now, stage 2.
Let's just pause there for a second, because I think if you are a thinking logical human, which we all have that logic for a reason, It can seem that if I spend the money to invest in myself, that that's not a good ROI, or that it's not
Mhm.
measurable,
That's
or that
right.
it's not immediate, or that I'm wasting money, or that
Yeah.
it's too expensive. I mean, there can be, I mean, I'm just sharing a lot of probably those negative beliefs that can come up about investing in ourselves. And yet, it is the number one thing that is going to allow you to have the capability to be able to serve people at a higher level. I think there's a huge part of that that's investing in yourself. And then there's a huge part of it that is walking out your work as well and continuing just to start the journey where you are and improving along the way. But
Yeah, that's absolutely agree. The hardest part about it is that it's not measurable. When you invest into a piece of real estate and you have this expectation or pretty general idea of how well it's going to perform when you buy it.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, there's going to be variables, there's going to be things that happen that throw that number off, maybe substantially, but not that much. You generally can predict pretty well. When you invest into stocks, I mean, if you're getting like your blue chip and your established companies, I mean, you generally have or an index fund, 7% is about what they're going to grow over time. You know, Investing into yourself, I feel like, is a lot like investing into an early stage company or into an early stage cryptocurrency where there's so much unpredictability. You have no way to measure what's going to happen. You don't know. You're just operating on this faith and this belief that this is going to give you an ROI on over a longer period of time. So that is absolutely what we struggle with of investing into ourselves. But I can tell you, I mean, out of everything I've done the last, 25 years, I started in business at age 19. 24 years. That is the number one investment that I can look back on that has moved the needle on my net worth and has created indestructible wealth because I built up the mindset. And the mindset
Mhm.
is drop me off in any city with $100 and I'll come out on top eventually. And it'll take me a while, probably. It won't be easy, but I'll do it. And so that's where the younger gen, when I posted about this on a Instagram reel, it blew up. Actually, it was a short little video. I just talked about, like, if you had your first $2,000, what you invest into, or like what financial assets you should buy. I said nothing. That's what I cut to, right? Nothing. And it just, like, sure, it shocked a lot of people. I said, you put that money into yourself, hire a coach, go to a seminar, take a course, read a book, invest into yourself to grow your skills and increase your income. And then you'll have substantially more money to invest and to multiply. I had a lot of haters on that. I mean, 50% of the comments were, they were cussing me out. They were telling me I don't know anything about compounding. And I could tell you this, I do know about compounding. I know about the compounding of one's mindset and ideas and skills and their earning power. I can out earn any of those trolls on that by 20 times because of the amounts of money that I've put into myself. So
Mhm.
that's always going to be your greatest investment, is because you have 100% control over your own earning power.
Which comes back all the way to the idea that your greatest leverage point is your ability to choose. I mean, Viktor Frankl pointed
Mm,
that out in Man's Search for Meaning as he went
yeah.
through concentration camps, and even said your ability to decide what you're going to do about your external stimulus, about the external environment, is the most powerful thing about you. And as you invest in yourself, you're investing in your ability to decide well. So Jack, what are in your framework, what are the next 3 levels of building wealth?
Yeah, stage 2 is invest into a cash flow producing business, and something preferably that you can scale, that where it's not always going to be 100% on you and on your own efforts. Something where you can create a team, whether it's a team of a sales team, a marketing team, a team of a support team, but that you can leverage off the efforts of others. There's two ways to create wealth, right? It's either people at work or it's money at work. It's almost impossible to get wealthy on your own 100%. Very, very difficult. I mean, you
And if you
can, but very,
do,
very slow. Very
and
slow.
if you do, usually that concept is I just want high earning, high income, which doesn't translate to human flourishing and long-term financial freedom either with
No,
streams
not
of
at
income.
all. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
So
so number
I'm a,
three. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
just want to add in too, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so I'm highly biased in terms of starting businesses and, building one's own equity in their own business. I mean, if you look at the amount of equity that my private business is worth, for example, or one of my private businesses, I mean, there's no way I could have ever created that kind of valuation by investing into the stock market, for example. Now I have stocks. I do have equities. I think it's a great way, a part of the plan, but nothing trumps the ability of an entrepreneur to really move the needle on their net worth through forcing up their earning power of their own cash flow producing business. Net income or earnings is what a company is valued on. So you can create an incredible level of equity or net worth in your own private business. So as an employee, they're listening to this maybe and like, well, I don't want to start a business. I get it. It's not for everybody. Well, then you need to have equity in other people's businesses. Or, for example, real estate is a business. If you
Mhm.
start buying property, that is a business. So you may want to look at that of, hey, I'm an employee. I want to build wealth quicker. Well, starting a side hustle, building a real estate portfolio, that could definitely be a way to help amplify your wealth building capabilities.
And
So
Jack, I'm going to make a distinction that I think is lost sometimes. I look at this as the difference between active and passive. So and it's a little different distinction than people who say passive streams of income or passive cash flow. So I'm going to separate this for a second. If you are investing passively, that's saying, well, the typical way is to put my money into a retirement account or a fund somewhere. Fund managers will make decisions about where my assets will be allocated. And hopefully I'm in the right risk tolerance and we have the right rules surrounding that I'm going to grow my wealth passively by not having to understand or have knowledge or control over those assets. Active investing is where I develop my skill set, which requires investing in myself and jumping in, plunging in, and building that experience. So active investment is something that I can choose to invest in where I do have knowledge and I do have control. And those two pieces will give you the greatest leverage, because if you have knowledge about something and you have control, you're not just at the whims of a fund manager or the market as a whole.
Right.
You are now in a position where you know how to pivot when the market in your particular demographic goes down in real estate. You can move to other assets, or you can take equity out of some real estate holdings and move that into, I don't know, maybe into multifamily or into self-storage, or you can reallocate assets because you have control. You're not just passively investing. And so that's a different distinction between active and passive. And what you're talking about here is get into cash flow producing assets. The mindset shift that has to happen before that is, I am an active investor. I choose investments. I am an investor, not just I have investments on the
Yeah,
side.
good point. Stage 2 is more of an active in nature type of component. Stage 3 is where you're investing the profits from your stage 1 earning power, your stage 2 cash flow producing business, and you're putting that into assets that create multiple streams of passive cash flow. So I use the example of buying rental property, for example, in real estate in stage 2, because that's not a passive investment. That is absolutely more, to me, an active investment than it is passive, because you're running a business. You have income coming in, you have expenses going out, You have tenants, toilets, and trash. You have a great property manager. Great. You still have an active investment. It's not passive. So in getting into stage 3, now you're creating, you're leveraging yourself and your ability to create multiple streams of income by doing things that you can put your money in. And for the most part, it doesn't take a lot of you having to like manage it or drive it or control it. And but yet stage 3 is safe things that are not so speculative in nature. Okay, so stage 4 is you take the income from stages 1, your earning power, stage 2, which is your direct effort, stage 2, your cash flow producing business, which is you're starting to have people at work, so you're generating money off them. And then stage 3 is you have your money at work into assets that are more stable in nature. And then stage 4, that's where you're taking the money and you're putting into speculative things. And typically that means early stage companies, early stage projects. I think of cryptocurrency. I think of pre-IPOs of companies that now, because the laws changed 5 years ago, where the everyday, Joe can now invest $1,000 into an early stage company before they go public. Those are what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of early stage technology type companies that have something that potentially could be huge. It could be early stage biotechnology. I just invested quite a bit into the what do you call it? It's psychedelics. It's so, the magic mushrooms that for years have been very, very illegal. Well, there's a lot of research that's supporting that those could be highly beneficial for humans to help with depression in a much more effective manner than what traditional depressants with all their side effects are doing. That's something that is very risky.
Interesting.
It's very risky because it may not ever really get approved or reclassified, I should say, from it's a Schedule 1 at the level of heroin right now. If it doesn't ever get reclassified to Schedule 3, which kind of where it needs to be, to where doctors can really prescribe it, then it's going to bomb out. But the research that I have predicts that could be the next $1 trillion business industry. So I like it. Yeah. And I always say you want to have different investment risks, buckets of risk. So that's my risky investment bucket, but that could also move the needle on my net worth in a huge way. So if it doesn't work out, if the research was wrong or something doesn't go the way that we hoped that it goes, and this is the nature of speculation, you're buying something on the hopes that it goes up in value or up in price. You're not buying something for the immediate cash flow that it's going to kick off. If it doesn't work out, then your lifestyle isn't affected. You're okay because your income is going to get replenished from stages 1, 2, and 3. What happens, and where I see a lot of the younger gen and what I did when I was 22, is I skipped from stage 0, 1 all the way to stage 4.
Right?
And because I wanted to get rich quick. I wanted to be a millionaire by age 30. So I went to the risky tech stocks in the year 2000, 3 months before the .com bubble collapsed.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid that all the young kids that are putting all their money into these risky meme bets, these highly, highly volatile with not much usage, cryptocurrencies, and these things that they're doing in an effort to try to move the needle on their net worth too quickly, then I'm nervous for them that they're going to go through even bigger fall than what I went through back when I was 22. So that's what I'm trying to, ultimately I'm trying to teach. And I think too, sometimes people just have to learn the lesson themselves. Some of these kids are just going to have to get crushed first before they're going to open up their minds to hey, okay, what's a better long-term, more sustainable plan? What the way I was doing it clearly was the wrong sequence.
So, Jack, I think there's so many areas that we could go to from this. I think there's a lot of value in building good money habits and good money systems, not jumping straight to investing really of any kind until you have the fundamentals of making sure that you're maximizing your cash flow and minimizing your expenses, being in a position where you're protecting the wealth and you're saving as well, even before you might move into the investing quadrant. But let's take this all the way back to kids for a minute here. So you're mentioning people who are young people right now who are maybe getting their start in finance, and they're trying to think about their own wealth creation story. How do we bring that all the way back to investing the entrepreneurial spirit in kids so that they can have the right mindset from an early age and be able to have the right systems and not have to make the giant swing of giant mistakes? What do you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, with our kids, I'm playing games with them. I played Monopoly with them when they were 5 and 6, and they were beating me at some levels sometimes. So that was cool. I think games are great for kids to learn. We bought Rich Dad's cash
The
flow
cash flow
game.
game.
Yeah. My
Use
kids
that
were
one as
less
well.
than excited about that because I kind of hyped it up as something super cool. And then for them, it was a board game. It was 1980s was one of the comments from my oldest
uh,
little punk.
how
And
old? How old at the time did they say that?
he's 13. Yeah. So
Okay,
he said it when he was 13. Of course,
awesome.
teenager,
Okay,
right? He's gonna
yeah.
he's gonna give me attitude. But as you go and you start hitting your young 20s and you're just starting to earn, then the prospect of waiting until maybe a decade before you're really there for stage 4 and doing speculation does not sound like fun at all. It sounds like, oh man, you're telling me I got to have all these fundamentals in place. Well, I think one thing I do teach is that when you are younger, you do have the ability to take on more risk, as at least a percentage of risk, than say when you're, 70 and approaching, you're really where your earning power may be not so strong. And so I tell them, look, take 20, 30% of your investable dollars and do some stage 4 stuff. It's like telling somebody that on a diet that, you can never have anything sweet. Like you can't, there's no cheat ever. They're just not going to be able to stick to that over the long period of time. It's not sustainable. So by saying, okay, yeah, you can do responsibly, do some stage 4 speculation. And I think in all reality, like you want to, I mean, there's just so much technology that and projects that are just have so much incredible potential right now. We're on the cusp of a technological explosion over the next decade that I don't think you want to really miss out on that. But you really want to be careful how much speculation you do, because the wealthy, they think safety first. That's their number one mantra. Protect
Mhm.
your capital, protect your principal capital, and then take the income that derives off of that capital, and then you speculate with that. So they
Mhm.
really want to do things in the right sequence, but it doesn't mean, for example, like I said, that you need to wait till you hit stage 5 and you're making all this money and you have this multi-million-dollar net worth before you really do anything charitable. You want to be doing elements of stage 5 all the way in conjunction with stage 1 and 2. So it's a matter of just thinking through what is the overall strategic plan that I need to embrace, that then dictates what the tactics are that I'm going to utilize.
Mhm.
Tactics are, what stock should I buy? What fund should I buy? What real estate should I buy, right? Where should I buy it? Those are all
Mhm.
tactical in nature. Those and those can change really quick. I mean, my tactics, for example, of my investment plan drastically shifted a month, 2 months ago, when the Bitcoin mining machines in China came to the market. When China shuts down Bitcoin mining for China, which made essentially making it illegal. They banned it. So now 70% of the world's Bitcoin mining machines are now on the market. So now I've got a partner that we've been mining crypto for a year. Now the prices now finally make sense for us. So now we're gobbling up, and I'm buying up as many Bitcoin mining machines as I can, because it's like legally printing money. But that that was a tactical shift that happened because market conditions changed. So you've got to be fluid with your tactics, as long as it falls in under the, what is your overall strategy? If I were to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to buy Bitcoin mining machines, but I sell off every other investment I have to go all in on that, well, that's, to me, is not following the strategic plan that I adamantly recommend. That's not, that wouldn't be too smart. So it's allowing yourself a little bit of flexibility, to make sure to make moves when moves make sense.
Jack, I think if somebody's listening today and they say, okay, well, so what from your perspective should I do next? First, second, third, fourth? I think it might even be helpful, rather than thinking of in an order, just classifying or being able to have the distinction on saying, what is this investment? Where does this fit in these buckets? Is this a cash flow producing business? Is this a multiple streams of passive cash flow? Or is this a speculative asset? Or is this giving? Or is this investing in myself? And if we can at least recognize and have a framework for understanding, what is this decision I'm making right now, then I think it's easier to integrate how to strategically do all of this well, because it's a system, right? It's not just like I give in isolation. I invest in myself in isolation from all of the other pieces. This is my whole financial life I'm talking about. This is a whole interconnected, interdependent working model, where if I recognize what is the purpose of this money and how can I think about my investing decisions, this is like an overlay of a map that I can classify my different decisions into. And that helps me then figure out, well, am I weighted? Am I unhealthily weighted all towards one type of investing? Do I need to expand into other areas? Do I need to invest more in myself? Maybe I have skipped that step. Have I skipped the giving step? Have I taken too much risk and jumped straight into speculative assets versus safety? Am I in the too safe quadrant? Am I don't even know why I called it quadrant, but am I over in the too safe camp? And I'm saying, I'm not going to invest anything right now, and I'm just going to hold all of my money steady. And I mean, if you look back even at the Bible with the parable of the talents, it's not an advisable, wise way of managing money to just hunker down and say, I'm just going to save and never deploy that capital to expand it. We want to expand our capital and build that indestructible wealth by really focusing on what's internal. So, Jack, I think this is a really helpful way of thinking about money and wealth. And I'm really thankful that you're starting this new arm, this new venue, this new method of helping people to truly focus on what matters, because people are looking for strategies to manage wealth. But ultimately, what we all really need, maybe it's not what we're looking for, but what we really need is to grow and be the best human that we are capable of being, and fulfill our calling in life, and to impact as many people as possible. And that is something that you brought up even very much at the beginning. So I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, I think, one thing to make sure to talk about that I'm really, I love this concept, is the concept of thinking six steps ahead. And so, and not in the 5 stages, it's kind of like a separate example. There was a really like one of my favorite commercials on TV, and I don't watch much TV anymore except it's sports, so I don't know if they're still on or not. But
I don't either, so I couldn't tell you. So go ahead.
Yeah, so DirecTV had a series of commercials out that it started with one thing that happened because you chose cable, and that negative event led to this step, to then this step, and then by step 8 you were in duress, like serious duress. So for example, when you wait for the cable guy to show up and he's super late, then stage 2 then happens, you get bored. And when you get bored, you stare out windows. And when you stare out windows, you see things you shouldn't see. So what happened was these mobsters were putting a cadaver into a trunk, right? So this guy sees that, right? So when you see things that you shouldn't see, you need to vanish. When you need to vanish, you have to fake your own death. When you
My
fake your
goodness.
own death, you dye your eyebrows. And when you dye your eyebrows, you attend your own funeral as Phil Shively. So that was the
Oh my
commercial,
goodness.
right? So it's hilarious. Or like
So
one guy,
ridiculously over the top. Yes.
yeah. Or another guy was playing racquetball, or he was on hold with the cable company for a long period of time. Got angry, played racquetball, got hit in the face, and then ended up getting an eye patch. The people thought he was tough. They attacked him. He ended up in a ditch, right? So that's the negative kind of scenarios
It
that
sounds like the
happen from one
grown up,
decision.
like the grown up version of if you give a mouse a muffin or I don't know. There's like these children's books. If you give something a cupcake, then like these spiral of events. Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. So it's a series of events. Exactly.
Go ahead.
So we can look at this in terms of a positive way. But what happens is most people, when they're building wealth, they're not in the early stages, they're not looking at this 6, 7, 8 steps down the line of what happens from the decision. So for
Mm-hmm.
example, the one that I like to give, instead of buying a used car that is reliable but not flashy, you're you buy a brand new car that you spend 60, 80,000. So in all reality, I mean, if you would have bought a used reliable car, you would have saved $500 a month. Okay. So then you'd save this $500 a month. Now you can buy a high cash value whole life policy, and you can fund it for, let's just say 500 a month for easy math, right? So that's over the course of a year, that's 6,000. Over the course of 5 years, it's 30,000. So at year 5, now you can borrow back, let's say you pull 25K out, and now you buy a piece of real estate for
Mm-hmm.
$25,000 down. That's worth 100,000. Okay. Now, the next stage from there is that you have $300 in net cash flow that's coming off of that rental property. Okay. So you take your $300 in net rental and you buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, you buy more riskier assets because that's stage 4. So now you're making money in 3 different places at the same time because of that one decision in step 1, which was to delay gratification, be a little bit more responsible, not give so much of a energy on what other people think of you, because you're buying the new car because you want to look good in all reality.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to keep up with somebody else in all reality. That's the main
Mm-hmm.
motivation. So by doing that, just simple step like that, now you're making money in 3 different places, and actually 6 different forms of money. So how does that, what do you mean 6 different forms of money? Well, your insurance, whole life insurance policy continues to compound,
Mm-hmm.
as even though you borrowed against it. So you're getting the growth of that policy. And then you're also getting, in the real estate deal, you're getting the growth of the property, you're getting the cash flow from the rent, and you're also getting the debt pay down of the amortization of the property. So that's increasing your net worth. So there's 3 there. And then on the cryptocurrency, for example, you're getting going for the appreciation of the asset, but you can now also loan and lend those out on platforms where you're getting additional income streams off your crypto. I've already made $10,000 in extra interest payments off of my crypto while I'm holding them, waiting for them to go up in value. So there's 6 total forms of and ways that your money is growing, and it was all from one decision that set everything off. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you look at it too, thinking 6 steps ahead, you can flip it and reverse it the other way. You bought the new car, so now you went $500 spent over your income. So now you're $500 in debt every month. So now at the end of 5 years, you got an extra 30,000 in debt. And now the next stage is you got to figure out how to pay that off, and so on, right? And so you got the negative spiraling effect of going the other direction. So it can go, the stages, the steps can go positive or negative, depending on what's that initial catalyst, that initial decision that you made. That's the problem, I think, is that most people aren't thinking this decision, even though it may be not that big, how is this developing, and how is this going to flush itself out and play out over and 5 years, to me, it really is not that long of a period of time to
It's
make
not. And
6 different forms of income off one decision.
so I think, Jack, when we look at that, if I could tell my younger self what I know now, I would say, look at the compounding power of small, good decisions.
Mhm.
It's difficult when you're standing at zero to envision how a responsible step today enables or creates or empowers the next good step, which empowers the next good decision. I think it's like that with anything in life. You're not only building up a muscle of doing the right thing, but you're providing yourself additional options in the future. And if we can become strategic, or even without necessarily understanding all of that building, which was extremely powerful that you shared, if we can just recognize from right now, what is the best next step that I can put myself in a better position tomorrow than I am today, I will give myself so many more options. And Jack, you said it really well. The reason that we buy the more expensive car today and the brand new, more expensive car is because we want to make ourselves feel good in the moment. If we could just think about what we're going to feel like 5 years and 20 years and 100 years and 2 generations from now, because of small, good decisions, if we could value the future more than today's comfort right now, I think we'd all be way further ahead.
I mean, I think that's the hard part, right? Is that the delayed gratification effect, right? We want to enjoy things now, and thinking 5 years from now is not always all that appealing. But that is absolutely the mindset shift that has to happen for somebody to actually build indestructible wealth. You have to be thinking 5 to 10 years down the road of how is this going to potentially multiply and compound. I definitely think that the plan of going from like zero, starting out just in your earning years and then retiring at 65, that's too long. 40 years, that's way too long to delay gratification. I'm not interested. Whenever I see anybody post on social media about these plans of, I'm going to save this, this, and this, and 40 years from now, I'm going to enjoy it, I'm like, I'm out. That, to me, I mean, I'm not patient enough to do that. I think that, building wealth does take time. It's not something that happens overnight. And if you force it too quick, I think bad things happen to you financially. But you can do it quicker, not quickly, but quicker than what you've been probably told or trained or others have shared with you. If you do the 5 stages, you can definitely achieve wealth inside of a 20-year period, probably even with today's incredible technology pace of what's happening. I mean, you could do it in 10 years.
And enjoy your life along the way.
And enjoy your life along the way. That's the most important part.
Absolutely. Well, Jack, this has been a great conversation today. Thank you for doing the work that you do. And I just want to commend and compliment you that at the very beginning, you said there's a lot of movies about negative, wealthy people. And you said, in reality, your actual experience, which has been mine as well, is the most successful people are the most giving and the most generous with their time and their knowledge and sharing so that other people can accomplish those same things as well. So if somebody would like to reach out to you, how is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, we have a podcast called the Indestructible Wealth Show with Jack Gibson. 57 episodes as of this recording. I cover everything that we just talked about today. And then I actually go into specific investments that make sense. I don't sell. I'm not licensed in securities. So I don't sell stocks or manage portfolios or anything like that. I do have a book I'm coming out with. I have a video course that will be very affordably priced. I have a monthly mastermind where they can get all of my crypto and stock picks that I'm making. I've made huge amounts on crypto, and I research and very careful too about what I do. And so they can get all those picks. Like that's a kind of a monthly chat group. And then I do have one-to-one coaching, very limited as well. So everything on my site, myindestructiblewealth.com. They can contact me there. They can find me on Instagram as well at Indestructible Wealth. And I respond to messages really quick on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jack, for continuing to share your story. It's been really unique to watch your evolution over the years that I've known you already. And I am really excited to see what you're creating.
And I do have a plug for you before you go. I mean, I can't get on your podcast and not plug it. So in my whole life policy, okay, this is what's funding the Bitcoin machines that I'm buying. And then my tax bill was seriously high this year, right? So I got to I got to do some moves and paying some taxes before the end of the year. And I was able to stay invested, right, all throughout the year. But yet now I have this liquidity that I can grab and pull out and borrow against my policy, not interrupt the compounding. And as an entrepreneur, the most important part of growing that, besides investing into yourself, is having liquidity. Liquidity, access to cash, quickly, right? So what you're doing with your business, I tell people all the time, they need to get with Rachel Marshall at the Money Advantage, because she knows her stuff. She designs the policies for an entrepreneur to be successful with them. So yeah.
Yes. And thank you for bringing that up multiple times. It's interesting that that ability to store cash in an infinite banking policy and have the availability to borrow that capital to put to work in other places is a powerful, powerful tool that all too often we completely miss because we blow past all of the steps and say, I made the money, I'm investing the money, and we skip the protection component. We skip the efficiency component. And as you're talking about, Jack, we skip the cash flow component even, which I see as one of the most important ones. And so slow down, build the fundamentals, look long range, and don't discredit the compounding power of your small decisions today.
That's right.
So Jack, this has really been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to anyone who is listening, whether this is live or after the fact. We are honored to have you here. We're honored to have you join in these conversations here as we continue to just share details about how to optimize your financial life so that you can be in the most powerful position possible and really truly accomplish your goals. So in closing, I will say, remember, success leaves clues. So model the successful few, not the crowd, and build a life and business you love. We'll see you next time.